Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I am here to do another episode of 3D interference. And what I want to talk about today is fear and shame. This is a chapter in my book that I felt it merited its own section to talk specifically about certain aspects of our 3D matrix and fear and shame and how they are incorporated almost like viruses within a program. And they're also very connected, but they have different layers to them. And I think that a lot of humanity experiences fear and shame throughout our lifetime more than we realize. And I believe that that is by design and that is on purpose. So I want to talk about some of that today. I actually didn't get that into it in the video itself, in the chapter itself, because I wanted to keep it brief. But here I might say a little bit more. Um, I believe fear is somewhat of the driving force of the 3D matrix in itself. So I think it's what keeps the 3D matrix going. And the reason for that is that all of our emotions have a vibration or a frequency associated with it because everything is energy. I don't think people can argue that even more. Even scientists are publishing papers and have figured out ways to measure it. So now that we can measure something, it's real, right? So each emotion is on this frequency scale, anywhere from below 100 all the way up to over 1,000. And when you operate at a state of fear, which is one of the lowest emotions, that really it resides in the lower chakras of the body, which are the root and the sacral, and even up into the solar plexus, because we are souls, but we are integrated within this human physical form. It makes us very vulnerable to the reality of like a primal aspect, even though humans are not super young. I mean, we've been around for quite some time, and there are hybrid versions of us, and we've been modified in many different ways. But the true aspect or essence of the human body, especially in 3D, is very primal still. So we are dealing many times as starseeds as very high density, high frequency beings trying to integrate and figure out how to operate these primal bodies. I've talked about this a bunch of times, especially with animals. The reason some animals, especially domesticated like pets, lash out or become aggressive is because they're trying to funnel through their own primal aspect of themselves, their instincts, their natural instincts. And sometimes it's hard for them to navigate through that when they have 3D interference as well. And so we do that. We are experiencing that same thing. And fear is the benefit. It's the thriving force of the 3D matrix because it is such a low vibrational energy. So when you're in that, but kind of that primal aspect, and you feel you have fear, your primal instincts and hormones kick in, and that's where we get into this fight or flight sympathetic mode, where we have adrenaline and cortisol running through our body, which is why many people have adrenaline fatigue and all of these medical terminology, basically meaning we're all stressed out, we're all really struggling, we have a lot of anxiety and stress, which are all I believe they're all kind of arteries, with the main vessels being fear and shame really are the main ones. And then we have all these little tiny vessels that go off that are kind of pathways of those main ones, but really those are the two. So when we're in fear, we're in a low vibration. Our primal instincts pop. We're living in that root chakra and the solar plexus and the sacral, and we are just worried about what we're doing, what's coming, how are we going to process things, how are we going to handle certain situations that come up. Especially right now, we're all being tested with our discernment. Are we trusting in our knowing, or are we handing our power over to somebody else? None of us really need to change anything about ourselves. We just need to tap into our higher knowing. And the only one that's going to be able to do that is yourself. There's nothing I can say or anyone can say to push people along in their journey in such an empowering way until the person is ready for themselves. And a lot of people are so programmed right now into 3D interference and the fear and all the manipulation that they are really lost, and they've lost their center, they've lost their spiritual center, they've lost their balance, and they are living in fear, which in my first book, Intuitive Transformation Evolution, I talk about the emotional high rise, which is, we think about just a building that has many floors, and the lower floors are the fear floors, and then as you go up to the middle floors, it's the kind of the neutral, I'm balanced but I'm not really happy, but I'm kind of, you know, figuring things out. And then the higher floors are us working towards our enlightenment, which is peace and gratitude and joy. And then the penthouse is where we all strive to be with it, which is when we are ready to be of service, and we can then help others, and we are completely disconnected from the matrix as much as possible, as much as completely could be. I don't know, to be enlightened, to be able to assist others while still recognizing that we are souls, that we are continuously evolving. So we never know everything. No one is ever perfect. No one is mastered everything. I know people pretend that they do, or they have, and they preach, and they're able to attract followers, and you know, we just need to be careful with those people, because I believe that they're so ingrained in the 3D. The problem with a lot of the spiritual awake community or woke community that thinks they're awake, but they're really woke, and they're out there with their channels and they're preaching to everybody, they don't realize that they are still very connected to the 3D, because they are so focused on money, 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 and politics and other things. And you know, they're still trapped in that 3D reality. And so again, no judgment with them, but their ego has attached and is sometimes, you know, running the show, and it's all about how many followers they have. And, you know, some of them actually become less humble as they go. And you can see that their personality changes. So it's just a delicate dance here in the 3D, because we need the ego to help us feel like we want to survive and we want to do well. And we need the shadow side at times, because when we're being taken advantage of, we need to bring that part forward, which is why I created that video a couple months back, or however long it's been, on don't mistake kindness for weakness. Because although I have my shadow side in check a majority of the time, doesn't mean that warrior in me won't come out if it needs to, if I feel like I am being attacked or taken advantage of. You know, we need that aspect of us. We don't want to get rid of the shadow side. We don't want to get rid of the ego, because it is important, because it's what separates us, which is good. But we also have to remember that we are still connected. And that, again, is a delicate dance. And the 3D interference, this matrix, is so immersed in fear that people forget all of that. And fear truly is the driving force of this reality. And, you know, we see it all the time. I mean, there's so many things designed in our reality, and the two kind of the main pillars of that are movies and television. So how can they entertain us? And then the news and media, how can they bring us information? So on both levels of those, which are probably huge aspects of being a human, you know, our entertainment here is how we're going to, you know, outside of work, what do we do to stay busy? We are encouraged to watch all these movies, and then we have television programs, we have the news outlet, and that's how a majority of people live their life, kind of plugged into one or the other or both. There's also sports, the sports arena, and then, you know, all the other things that they do to kind of hook us in. But I believe those are kind of the main pillars. And so if you take movies and television shows, I think, you know, even I'm not that old. I haven't been around that long, but even from the time in the 80s, I was born in 81. I remember looking back at the TV shows back when I was younger, and I look at the ones now, and they're so different. You know, they're so there's a drastic shift in the agendas they're driving, the way that people are dressed. And I'm not just talking about, you know, normal kind of clothes changing over the years, and, you know, that fashion changes and stuff. I'm just talking about the blatant sexuality, with the clothes and within the movies, and the attitudes and the morals or lack of morals. And I've talked about all this before, so I'm not going to get too far into it right now. But it's the desensitizing that they do within the programs that are really that really shout out to me, that really get my attention, because I think that they drive the violence very young, even in cartoons, even with mild violence, where there's just even in cartoons with young kids, and there's someone getting hurt and this and that, and then it escalates to teen shows, and there's murder, and that's why they hook kids in with the scary movies, because scary movies have to be one of the biggest viruses in the 3D matrix. And if you could encourage your children not to watch scary movies, do it, because they are such a window and portal in and of themselves to open up pathways of just so much darkness. And our children don't even realize they're consenting to it by watching it. There's so much programming in those that they instill, the fear, but so many other things. So when they start to desensitize us from a young age, that I remember even my children, when they were really young and they saw somebody get shot in a show, and mom and dad were watching it, and they were like beside themselves. And then over time they see it a little bit more and more and more, in different shows in different ways. And then it's just like nothing. It's like, that's why people can watch scary movies of people getting murdered in a movie theater, and meanwhile they're eating their popcorn and candy, like it's like just not a big deal. And it's truly an issue if you think about it, from a different perspective. Like, there have to be beings outside of this reality looking at us like, what is wrong with these people? Like, they are enjoying the pain and suffering of other people. And I didn't get it when I was young either. I mean, I hated scary movies, but I wanted to feel cool, and I wanted to feel like I fit in. And so I would go to see movies and with my friends, and it was like the cool thing to do, to get scared. And then I saw Paranormal Activity when I was in my early 20s, I think, and that did something to me. And I have not watched a scary movie since. That was, how old am I? So 20 years ago. I have not participated in that ritual. I think it's a ritual, but I guess I needed some experience to remind myself of that. But we don't think about it. We think it's just, oh, it's innocent. But in reality, it's setting us up for so many different things. It's desensitizing us. It's programming us. It's inserting thoughts into our mind, projecting thoughts out into the world, into our reality. So there's so many things, but fear is the driving force, and it activates so many portals when we're walking in fear. It blocks our lower chakras, which causes much dis-ease in the lower aspects of our body. So it's our digestion, our gut, back pain. How many people in the world have lower back issues, or hip pain, or inflammation, or kidney issues, or urinary infections, bladder infections? Or women have issues with their uterus, and kind of the women's kind of all the stuff that comes along with women's issues, and disbalance and menopause, and all of these different aspects. They're all targeted in the lower chakras, where the majority of the organs are, and even the spleen and the liver, the gallbladder. I mean, everything, not everything, but a lot is intertwined with those lower chakras with regard to fear. And if you don't feel secure and supported in your life, or you're coming from a place of fear, unknowing, or you don't have self-love and confidence in what you're doing or what you're capable of, or if you're deserving, or you have shame, which we'll get into next, those chakras will not receive an appropriate balanced amount of energy, or chi, throughout the body, and especially in those lower regions. And then the physical aspect will manifest. So it starts energetically, and then it will manifest physically, and then it'll be kind of an acute issue, and then it turns into a chronic issue, which is also why so many people have chronic issue. Now, the pharmaceuticals don't help, because that just exaggerates it. And again, I talk about not getting to the root cause of illness. I talked about that in a recent video I did as well, and I talk about it in the book. But we're masking a lot of these symptoms, and that's what they want, because they don't want us to get to the root cause. They don't want us to identify that. They just want us to live in the moment and just be in fear because they know that fear is going to amplify everything. So being mindful about our fears is really important, and it's so beneficial to teach our children to confront their fears. We should be confronting our fears. Don't let our fears control us. So you face the fear, and then a lot of times, especially with children, when I work with children, even adults, they face that fear and then they realize, gosh, it wasn't that bad, because we work up the variables and all of these things in our mind, and we amplify it, we make it so much bigger than it actually is. And then when we face it, we're like, oh, that wasn't that bad, because we build it up, you build it up, you build it up, you build it up, and then it amplifies. So TVs and movies do that. They just constantly are instilling fear with all the zombie movies, all these sad movies. My daughter had a question the other day, which is really valid, and I want people to think about this. With regard to TV shows and movies. She was watching something the other day. Don't even remember what it was. Doesn't even matter. But the mom had cancer. 10 minutes into the movie, she's like, and she looked at me and she goes, Mom, why is it? She was totally serious. Why is it that every movie has mom getting cancer? Now, I want everybody to think about that for a second, because it's a valid question. Why is it that a majority of these movies are sad, and we call them the tear jerkers, and mom is getting cancer and dying? Why are they instilling or implanting that suggestion in our children? Are they now they're going to live in fear? Is my mom going to die? And my daughter asked me that at one point. What if you get cancer? And it implants these fears. Again, fear, fear, fear. And for some reason, it's always the mom. Well, not for some reason. We know why they're attacking mom, but it's most of the time it's the mom getting cancer. Why is it that so many shows are showing or depicting moms getting cancer and dying, and the turmoil the children go through that follows that? And so that was a really important aspect. Or a point that she brought up. Why is that? So we have the fear, we have the dis-ease, we have the dying, we have the sad, really sad movies. Why do they always show teen movies where they're really sad? And they want to bring the energy down. They want to bring the vibe down, so that the children are not looking forward to anything. They're not happy because they're instilling all of these things. Oh, what if that happened? Oh, that could happen as well. And they do it to the adults. So they're desensitizing us through the murder and all of these things. So when we see somebody get shot point blank in the head and blood splatter, we're like zombies. We're just like, meh, no big deal. And that's not okay. And I'm admittedly that one of those people where, I've been desensitized to it as well. And, but there are moments where I'm just like, I don't even try not to watch it, but, sometimes it's inevitable in some of these movies. So then we have the news and the media. And it's so funny right now. And there's so many different versions of the story. And I also believe it's the timeline you're in. Let's take example of right now, the Burning Man. I have friends that have been going to Burning Man for 10 years, and I've never gone, and I don't want to, never had an interest. No, that is definitely not my thing. But great for people who go, whether or not it's a cult ritual or not, I don't know. I'm not talking about that, but just think about the fear narrative that they're playing right now of everybody that's trapped there, and the Ebola outbreak and all of these crazy things that are happening. And then I have people that I know that are actually there, and they're communicating, and they're like, oh, it's really not that bad. And there's two different versions of the story. Which one is real? Well, I'm sure there are people that are there that are having a horrible time reaching out to their friends saying that this is true. And then there are some, like the people I know, that are like, it's not really that bad. They're exaggerating it so much worse than it is. Which is correct? Now, remember, I've always said that there's always because of all the illusions and the layers of reality and truth and perception, there's always multiple versions of the truth. So I think both could be true. But the important thing is, which truth are you tapping into? When I saw the Instagram and Twitter feeds on Burning Man, and I started to see more and more and more, and what's going on there, I had two choices. One, I could be like, oh my God, and focus on it and negative, negative, negative. And I could just drown myself in that. Or I could say, I hope that that it's not as bad as they're making it out. And I don't focus on that. And I just focus on people getting out. And I just focused on those people getting home. I don't focus on the Ebola aspect. I don't focus on the sickness or visualizing what it might be like for them there. I was focusing on, let's just visualize all those people home where they live, and everything is over. So that's kind of uh, being mindful of the current events. And there are a lot of lies, and there are a lot of multiple variations of the truth and exaggerations of the truth, and they want people to fear. And I'm not even going to go into the narrative of the COVID 2.0 that they're trying to push right now, but and the lockdown, more lockdowns and all of this and more of these. I got to be really careful with what I say, because I don't want my channel to be taken down. But again, all of it is about, every time you watch the news, you walk away. Most people don't walk away with an uplifting feeling. They walk away with, oh, I'm worried. I have stress about something, even something new that I wasn't even stressed about. Now they're talking about it. So they want people to continuously tap in. That's why news runs all day long. I mean, on any channel, you can find it basically all day is what I'm saying. And they have the hot times in the morning and then the after work time. So that people, after they've gone through their day of programming and work and being in the matrix and plugged in, then they come back home, and now they're plugged in again to the programming that they want you to see and recite to your friends and family, and just kind of marinate in that. And it's day after day after day. So we have fear with the media, and we have fear with the movies, and the programming, and all of it, and everything in between, and all aspects of our reality are designed to scare people, which is fear and being scared, same thing. Shame is a whole other element, and I feel like shame opens this doorway to very dark energy and dark pathways that we just, it activates something within us, and shame, I think, is the lowest vibration, even below fear, because, and I talk about this in the book, when you're feeling guilt about something you did, and you are kind of feeling shame as a result, anybody that ever feels shame about themselves, it's self-directed. So the fear is an environmental 3D interference that's projected on everyone. But when you feel shame about something, that is self-inflicted. Like you are turning the camera around at yourself and saying, I don't feel good about who I am. I don't feel good about what I did. I don't love myself. I hate myself. I'm not pretty. I'm not handsome. I'm whatever. And you are essentially activating that shadow side within you, and it opens the doorway to so many dark places that you don't want to go. And I think many of you watching this have been, and I've been there. I have definitely been there many times, and you don't want to. It's like you don't want to visit that aspect of the energetic void that it could take you to, because it's dark, and it also activates many other portals. And I talk about the mirror portals, which are activated by ego, for those that are really egocentric and just think that they are they are God, which we all are. Okay, so don't get me wrong, but they think that they are godly and better than everyone else. And that's not true. We're all equal. We're all the same. Doesn't matter if you're homeless, or if you are a millionaire, and everything in between. Doesn't matter if you're religious or you're spiritual. Like, we all have our experiences, and we all chose that. I believe, for the most part, aside from some 3D soul scalping and the dark stuff. But believe it or not, some people, I have done sessions with people who chose to experience homelessness, and they said that they learned a lot from it, and they're so grateful that they had that experience. So sometimes people choose those kind of darker paths or more challenging paths. But when we are in the vibration of shame, it's really a challenging place to get out of. I almost feel like fear is easier place to step out of, because again, sometimes you can see through the illusion. But when you're in shame, it's self-judgment, it's self-inflicting. You are your biggest challenge. You are your own biggest blockage. And that is it's so much deeper and thicker to navigate through. And people really, when that happens and that occurs, I believe that they are more likely to numb, and they will, become addicts or seek alcohol and drugs and things like that, because they can't live with it. They don't know how to walk out of it. And so they just, self-sabotage. Fear, I feel like it keeps the matrix alive, but shame, it's almost like shame strengthens it, if that makes sense. So our shame is what strengthens. So think about that. Reverse psychology yourself. Your shame is actually making them stronger. This matrix, the dark players. So sometimes you got to get mad. I've coached clients this way many times. Get mad, stand up, and be like, hold on, enough is enough. You are no longer going to use me as your little puppet. You are no longer going to generate your power through my fear or my shame or my lack of self-confidence and self-love. And you get angry for a moment, because sometimes you can you can use our emotions for our advantage. Sometimes they're just marker points. They're just avenues for shifts to occur. So sometimes anger is good because it will activate something inside of you. I did a video a long time ago, how to fuel the fire within you. How do you turn that anger into motivation, into your own power? And we can do that. So sometimes it just takes something to click in your mind and be like, hold on a second, this is ridiculous. I don't even think that my shame is my shame. I think it's a projection or of someone else's, someone in my family, maybe my parents, my sibling, or my spouse or friend or best friend you've had your whole life. And you realize, gosh, all this time I'm an empath and I've been taking on their shame or their guilt or there's so many different variations, and that's why the work that I do is so empowering for myself, even because I learned so much through other people's journeys. And when we discover things through the sessions that we do, these one-on-one sessions, I'm like, sometimes I'll come back and I'll say to them, gosh, I haven't heard this one before, but this is interesting. And I feel I say that quite frequently. So I'm constantly learning, and I value that. And the work that I do, because it's helped me so much. And that's why I want to give back, because I know that it's not meant just for me. I'm meant to share this information because I think if it's helped me this much, it has to help others, at least those that are ready and willing and open to receiving the information. So circling back to shame, I think the biggest trigger for shame, yes, in the movies and TV, but more so for social media. And that's why I think the newer generations are struggling. I didn't have social media when I was a child, certainly not when I was a young adult in a very vulnerable, difficult period. I mean, your teen years are like, have to be the worst. They were the most challenging, especially preteen, going into teen, and all those expectations, and then being in it. It's really challenging. And so I can't even imagine what it's like for these young minds, vulnerable young minds, to be influenced by the social media. And it's unbelievable. But that's the reality that the 3D has created. And it's how can we empower ourselves and not buy into it, not let it consume us. With the TikToks and Instagram, and the selfies, and people are just posting all these pictures of themselves in these poses and these different outfits. I see women doing it that are older than me. And gosh, sometimes I feel for these people, because I'm like, what happened to you that you feel like you need to receive so much validation from everyone else constantly? Oh, you're so pretty, or oh, this or that. And I'm not saying like it's okay to post pictures of yourself. Everyone knows the people I'm talking about, constantly, just all the time, just pictures of them. And it's not like a cute, like, haha, selfie, I'm being funny. It's like I'm sexy and this and that or whatever. And I'm just like, it saddens me that people feel that they need to receive so much validation from outside. I mean, on the internet, like, it's even ridiculous. Like, I don't even know if sometimes these people are real. So our teens, and that I'm in my 40s talking about this. So, my 9-year-old daughter, she's not going to think like that. So she's going to derive a lot of validation from likes and how many followers people have, or how many she has, if she, you know what I mean? Like there's so many aspects. And there's these impossible standards of beauty and weight, and it's always changing. So it's just like, what happened to all the people who made pencil thin eyebrows and put tattoos on their face, and that look was in, and then now it's like bushy eyebrows are in, and the big eyelashes, and the more vibrant makeup. I mean, if that doesn't give people a clue that you can't just authentically be yourself when you want to be it, but you have to follow these trends, I think is on purpose, so that people are constantly changing, feeling like they need to change themselves. And it's not in an organic way. I've always been super against fashion trends. And I'm like, oh, I refuse to wear some of this stuff. It's absolutely ridiculous. But I look around at all the people just wearing whatever's in the store. And I'm just like wondering if people even do you even want to wear that? Do you like it? Or do you feel like it's a uniform that everyone's wearing, and it's part of this reality, so in order to fit in you need to wear it? I don't subscribe to that. I think it's absurd. But again, that's just my opinion. But I'm just giving all these examples and layers to the influence that we had, that we don't even realize that we are consenting to. And I think that shame and guilt are very much tied in to the expectations and these social norms created through social media, and what people are posting and how they're posting it, and how many viewers they have and subscribers and all of that. Everyone already knows my opinion. I've talked about that a bunch. I'd much rather have a community and a family with subscribers that actually resonate with what I talk about, because then they're going to leave uplifting comments, and they're going to build to the conversation, and we're going to create a nice, friendly group. But when you have channels with these infinite amount of followers, that's when you attract the bots, the haters, and the NPCs that purposely come in to lower the vibration. And then you have so many people leaving nasty comments. And I just wonder where they think those, like, what are people looking to gain when they post a nasty comment about somebody's video? It could be mine or anybody for that matter. Like, I just want to ask them face to face, not through the computer, because people are so much more brave when they're sitting behind a desk and no one sees them, and they're in the computer, going through the virtual world with no liability. And it's ridiculous to me. But I would love to ask them, like, what was your purpose here? Like, I'm always thinking like that whenever I create a solution to a problem, or I'm looking to manifest, or I am helping my children. I always say, like, what's the purpose here, and what's the solution? Let's brainstorm. Is that going to help, or is that going to make it worse? Is this going to slow things down? Is it going to speed it up? That's how I make a lot of my life decisions. Or I'll decide if I'm going to participate in certain agendas that are online, and if I'm going to be just like everyone else posting the same thing, or am I going to sit back, or do I align with that? I think a lot. I'm a thinker. And I think for the most part, a lot of people don't think things through, and they just kind of follow the narrative in front of them. And we need to kind of go back to our own self, our inner knowing, does this make sense to me? Is this going to help, or what's your purpose? So back to the people leaving negative comments, what is your purpose? So you want to start a debate? Okay, where's that debate going to go? And maybe it will get, 10 people, and maybe people are going to get activated. Now, okay, what's going to come of that? Is that going to change the world? Is that going to make the person stop making videos? What's your agenda? What's your plan? And I think about those things. So back to my point, those social media it can really stir things up, but it could also do a lot of beautiful things. It's just how we channel our energy. And I think that's true for anything in life. I think technology can be a beautiful thing, and it can really help us. We can do so many positive things with technology. Money, we could do so many positive things with money. If probably 99% of the nonprofits out there, and these supposed humanitarian groups, or whatever the word is, if they actually did something positive, then we could do great things with money. We could do great things with our advancements in healthcare. Just any facet in life, anything you want to think of, we could do so much good But the problem is, in this reality, that's not how they thrive. That's not their thought process. That's not their agenda. So it's how can we take these things and then control everybody else? And then the very few amount of people that they choose can be on the upside of that and benefit from it, and while everyone else is struggling. And there's just I think a true testament to the consciousness of people, people always reach out to me and they say, where am I? Am I 5D yet? And I think that that's got so convoluted also, and people are so misguided by that. I've even stepped back. I'm like, let's just even stop talking about that, and let's just focus on how you are perceiving and reacting to everything that's happening right now. Are you using your discernment? Are you creating boundaries? How do you react to the drama on that you're hearing? Are you in survival mode, or are you in active mode, problem solving mode, positive attitude? How can we create? How can we change and shift? Or are you, let's complain, let's get a group of people together and let's talk bad about this person and that person and this person, and negative, 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 negative. So everyone can answer their own question as to where they are and how they've evolved consciously based on their everyday actions. And not when you're being watched, not when you think people are looking, but when nobody's looking, cameras are off. How are you as a human being? How do you treat your husband or wife, your children, your neighbors, your pets, animals in general, nature? How do you react to situations? Nobody's 100%. As much as I like to as far as I've come, I got to be careful with my words. As far as I've come in my evolution and my spiritual journey, I have moments where the dog digs a hole in the backyard and I'm like, Luna, what are you doing? And I'll scream at her, get back, girl, get, like, okay, I have my 3D moments. I'm not going to float over to her and just be like, oh, like I'm not that person either. And my children do something or what, like I'm going to react, but it's all about overall. Like if you had to just look at yourself from a macro, and you evaluated your life as that day or a week or a month, and you do a review of yourself and say, okay, a majority of the time, let's say that week, I'm looking back at last week, how a majority of the time, I think that I did pretty well. And some of the time I overreacted and I reacted from a place of uncertainty or fear or shame. But I think I did really well, and there may be days where you are the opposite and you're like, oh my God, I think I reacted from shame or fear or worry all day. And I did pretty bad, Sherri. It was bad for me. I had a bad day. Okay, great. Not great, but okay, that's it. That's a true, honest reflection of yourself, not from what other people think, not from whatever other people told you, but how you feel you've done. And I think that if people can truly reflect in a way where they remove themselves from ego, and just allow their thoughts to flow through and just be truthful and honest about how they are and how they've been, or you, however you say that, we are going to blossom and evolve so much more quickly as a collective if on an individual level we are able to do that, because then we are thinking about it, we're more mindful, and we are reviewing how we have experienced, or how and when we've experienced shame and fear, and did we allow those emotions to dictate or control how we reacted or acted, and for how long? Was it moments? Were you really angry and yelling at somebody and it lasted minutes, or were you marinating in that for days? And it's not a what is it, what's that term? It's not a sprint. This is a marathon. And this is lifetimes long. So we're not all meant to master everything in one life. We need to be patient with ourselves and take time and be mindful of our reaction. That's how we evolve. And if we can look at others with the same kind eyes that we're looking at for ourselves, and we recognize, that person A over there, neighbor, boyfriend, sister, whatever. Okay, now I'm looking at them as an individual soul, removing any ego or resentment or anything that they did or didn't do to you, and you just look at them from a clean slate, clean eyes, with a different perspective of neutrality. And then you look at them and say, okay, man, it's hard for me. It must be really hard for you. And that's how we connect. That's how we thrive as a community, because we look at everyone not as the enemy, but as someone struggling just like you are, just like I am. Everyone is struggling. Everyone has bad days. Everyone has variables that we don't even know. We don't even factor in, that we don't know what just happened to them. They could be just dying inside, and then they come off as a very arrogant, nasty person, and you're thinking, what a douche, what a nasty person. And we don't know the hurt or what they're going through. And maybe all they need is love in their life, and they're not getting it from anybody, and they're reacting. Again, it doesn't give them a pass to be mean, but we just need to understand or understand everyone's journey, and how much the fear and the shame aspect of the 3D interference really can set us back, and it can make this a lot more challenging. And I think it also perpetuates our inability to connect with one another, and it just amplifies our ability to hate on each other and judge, and it gets pretty bad. So without me going on too much more of a rant, let me just see if there was anything else I wanted to say. Yeah, I think that's probably enough. So just be mindful of when you are feeling fear and you are feeling shame. Two things. One, take a moment to reflect and decipher and discern. Is this my fear, or is this someone else's fear? Or is this my shame, or is this someone else's? Once you can try to identify if it's yours or not, and if you're unsure, you could try muscle testing or a pendulum. But I feel like we need to go away from those. Not that we need to go away from those tools. I think we need to not rely on them as much, and really just, like, I used to use all those things every single day, and now I rarely use any. The only thing I really use now are crystals. I don't even know where my pendulum is right now. I don't really use many tools, because I have to trust my knowing, and that's what I do. And because when I do that and I practice that, then when a feeling comes in, I trust it, and so use your discernment right now. And when that fear comes in, try to identify or discern, is it yours or is it someone else's, or the shame? And then you can work to release it, or charge it. So for shame, I recommend that you actually release it. Fear, you can charge it. So for shame, you can do practices like self-love practices. Breathing, my favorite is I always talk about progressive breathing millions and millions of times. You take in a deep breath, hold it, and your intention is that you are releasing any unresolved or shame that's coming up, or anything that is lowering your vibration or causing you to feel guilt or lack of self-love. And you bring it up to the surface, you hold your breath for a few moments, and you have a nice long exhale, and just feel that leaving your body. I'm no longer attached to this shame. It no longer is serving my highest good, and I release it, and so it is. It's really that simple. But you got to do that 2, 3, 4, 5 breaths, maybe even a few minutes, and then you can do that a couple times a day, and then you can, and then you'll slowly feel like it'll go away. That's an active intention. You are releasing it through breath, and then you can do other ways. You could sing it out. You can scream it out, you can swim it out, you can run it out, you can ground it out, go outside and connect with nature, put your hand on a tree and ask the tree to absorb that energy that you're releasing. Trust me, the trees will do that for you, because they can instantly transmute that energy. So there's lots of different ways. Now for fear, try to charge it. So just feel that fear just activating, and give it a color. Whatever color you want. It could be yellow, orange, red, fuchsia, I don't know. And just feel the fear. Where's the fear in your body? Close your eyes, go outside and connect it and find it. And then just bring it all in together like one little ball of energy. And then just feel it activate, and then feel it transmute into motivation and empowerment. And then you feel, oh, I'm charged and I'm ready. What am I going to use this for? And feel it all throughout your body. Go from that ball of fear to now it's activated and charged, and it might change color. It may have gone from a red to now it's a bright yellow. And now this is charged with motivation, empowerment, excitement, whatever it transmutes for you. And then you feel it coming out through your body again, out your arms, your through the abdomen, your legs, your feet, out your head. And now you're charged with this energy. And now what are you going to do with it? You go and write. You go do those things that you didn't think you can do. You go outside and use it to garden. You create something, build something, write something, whatever you want to do with it. And that's how we shift the energy from fear. You can also release the fear just like we did with shame. But I think it's fun sometimes to activate that fear if you want to use it for something and to give you courage to do something you couldn't do before or whatever it may be. And this is great. You can work with your children and teach them this. And I've done that with mine, and I teach it to children all the time, and it really works. And there's lots of other ways, but these are just a few. So I hope that this video has found you all well today. I hope that you find it beneficial. Leave some notes, comments. Let me know if you have other ideas or things that you do and how you feel about the fear and shame virus in the 3D matrix, and how we can move out of it and help each other work together. So until next time, bye everybody.